A forbidden love written across galaxies, where an alien princess meets her destiny. Asterisk, the massive space station Harmony Prime floated in the neutral zone between two great powers. Its silver walls reflected the light of distant stars as ships from across the galaxy docked at its many ports. Today was special. Today, the most important meeting in 100 years would take place. Princess Zerathel stepped off her royal transport ship. With careful, measured steps, her tall frame was covered in the traditional blue and gold armor of the Vorthic Empire. The metal plates moved smoothly with her body, each piece crafted by the finest smiths in her kingdom. Her pale blue skin seemed to glow under the station's lights, and her silver hair was braided with small gems that showed her royal status. Behind her walked 6 Vorthic guards, their faces hidden behind dark helmets. They carried energy weapons and moved like trained killers. The other aliens in the docking bay quickly stepped aside. As the princess passed, everyone knew the Vorthic were warriors who had conquered half the galaxy. "Your Highness," said Captain Vexter, her personal guard, "the humans are already here." "They arrived 2 hours ago." Zerathel nodded but said nothing. She had heard stories about humans all her life. Her father, Emperor Vorthic, called them weak and foolish. They cry over small things. He would say, "They make art instead of weapons. They are not worthy of our respect." But the humans had surprised everyone. In just 50 years, they had built a powerful federation of worlds. They had fought the Vorthic Empire to a standstill in 3 major battles. Now both sides were tired of war and ready to talk peace. The princess walked through the long corridors of the station. She saw many different aliens going about their business, tall, thin Zelrians with their forearms, small furry Quittens with their big eyes, and metal-skinned mechanoids that spoke in electronic voices. But she had never seen a human before. The main conference room was huge, with a round table in the center. On one side sat the human delegation. Zerathel studied them with interest. They looked so ordinary. Their skin was a warm pink-brown color, and they had hair on their heads in different shades. They were smaller than the Vorthic, and they wore simple dark blue uniforms instead of armor. "Welcome, Princess Zerathel," said President Sarah Martinez, the leader of the human delegation. She stood up and bowed slightly. "We are honored by your presence." Zerathel was surprised by the gesture. In Vorthic culture, enemies did not bow to each other. They showed strength, not respect. But the human woman's voice was calm and friendly. "I am here to discuss terms," Zerathel said in a cold voice. Nothing more. The negotiations began badly. The humans wanted to keep 3-star systems that the Vorthic claimed as their own. The Vorthic wanted the humans to stop expanding into new territory. Both sides argued for hours, but neither would give ground. Standing near the wall, Commander Marcus Chen watched everything carefully. He was the head of security for the human delegation. His job was to keep everyone safe. But he found himself watching the alien princess more than looking for threats. She was beautiful in a way that was completely different from humans. Her movements were graceful like a dancer, but he could see the strength in her arms and shoulders. When she spoke, her voice was like music, even when she was being stern. But what caught his attention most were her eyes. They were a deep purple color, and they seemed to hold great sadness. Marcus had been a soldier for 15 years. He had fought in many battles against the Vorthic, and he had lost good friends to their weapons. He should hate this alien princess, but instead, he felt sorry for her. She seemed trapped, like a bird in a cage. The first day of talks ended with no progress. Both sides agreed to meet again the next morning. The humans went to their guest quarters, while the Vorthic stayed on their ship. The second day was even worse. The princess seemed angry, and her guards looked ready to fight. President Martinez tried to make jokes to lighten the mood, but the aliens did not understand human humor. "Perhaps we should discuss trade agreements," suggested Dr. James Wilson, the human science advisor. "Our peoples could benefit from sharing technology. The Vorthic do not need human technology." Zerathel replied sharply, "We have conquered worlds while you were still learning to walk upright." Marcus saw the hurt look on Dr. Wilson's face. The old man had spent his whole life studying alien cultures because he wanted to bring peace to the galaxy. The princesses. Words had cut deep. On the third day, the talks moved to the dining hall. The station's cooks had prepared foods from many different worlds. Marcus noticed that the princess barely touched her meal. She sat straight in her chair, but her eyes looked tired. "Your Highness," said Captain Reynolds, a human military officer, "perhaps you could tell us about Vorthic art. We have heard your people create beautiful sculptures for the first time." Zarathel's expression softened slightly. "My people, we do create beauty, but beauty must serve strength. A sculpture that does not inspire warriors is worthless." Marcus thought about this. Human art was made for many reasons: to express feelings, to tell stories, to simply make people happy. The idea that art must serve war seemed very sad to him. Suddenly, the lights in the dining hall flickered. Marcus's training kicked in immediately. He had learned to notice small details that others missed. The flickering pattern was not random. It was a signal. "Everyone down," Marcus shouted as he dove toward the princess's table. A bright green energy beam shot across the room, aimed directly at Zarathel's chest. Marcus threw himself between the princess and the deadly blast. The energy hit him in the shoulder, spinning him round and sending him crashing to the floor. Pain exploded through his body like fire. He could smell burned cloth and skin. His vision blurred, but he could hear shouting and the sound of energy weapons firing. Security guards from both sides were running around, looking for the attacker. Through the chaos, Marcus felt gentle hands touching his face. He looked up and saw the princess kneeling beside him. Her purple eyes were wide with shock and something else: concern, fear. "Why?" she whispered in her musical voice. "Why did you save me?" Marcus tried to speak, but his throat felt dry. The pain was making it hard to think. Because. It was right," he managed to say. Zarathel stared at him with an expression he couldn't understand. In her culture, enemies did not sacrifice themselves for each other. They fought with honor, but they did not show mercy. Yet this human had risked his life to save hers without hesitation. "Medic," she called out, using the human word instead of the Vorthic term. "This man needs help." As the medical team rushed to treat Marcus, Zarathel stayed by his side. She had never felt anything like this before, a strange warmth in her chest, a desire to protect someone who was not family or ally. Her people had a word for it, but she had never expected to feel it for an alien. The word was Salbin, the recognition of someone who could complete your heart. As Marcus was carried away on a stretcher, still conscious but weak, their eyes met one last time. In that moment, something passed between them, a connection that would change both their lives forever. The diplomatic talks were suspended while security investigated the attack. But for Princess Zarathel, the real negotiation was just beginning, not between empires, but between two hearts that had found each other across the vast darkness of space. The medical bay on Harmony Prime was quiet except for the soft beeping of machines. Commander Marcus Chen lay on a white bed, his shoulder wrapped in healing bandages. The doctors had worked for 6 hours to repair the damage from the energy blast. They said he was lucky to be alive. Marcus stared at the ceiling, thinking about what had happened. He had acted without thinking, throwing himself in front of the alien princess. His fellow officers said he was brave, but Marcus wasn't. Sure, he had simply done what felt right at the moment. The door to his room opened quietly. Marcus turned his head and was surprised to see Princess Zarathel standing there. She wore a simple white robe instead of her armor, and her silver hair hung loose around her shoulders. Without the royal decorations, she looked younger and more vulnerable. "How are you feeling?" she asked, her voice soft. "Better," Marcus replied, trying to sit up. "The doctors say I'll heal completely." Zarathel moved closer to his bed. "I wanted to thank you properly. In my culture, saving someone's life creates a debt that must be repaid." Marcus shook his head. "I don't want anything in return. I just did what anyone would do." "No," Zarathel said firmly, "not anyone. Most beings would have stayed safe. You chose to risk everything for someone you barely knew, someone who was supposed to be your enemy. They looked at each other in silence. Marcus noticed that her purple eyes seemed to change color in the light, shifting from deep violet to lighter lavender. Zerathel found herself studying his face, the strong jaw, the kind brown eyes, the way his mouth curved when he was thinking. I should go, she said suddenly, stepping back. My guards will be looking for me. But she didn't leave. Instead, she sat in the chair beside his bed. Tell me about Earth, she said. Your home world. What is it like? Marcus smiled. It's beautiful. We have blue oceans and green forests. The sky changes colors at sunset, orange and pink and purple. There are millions of different animals and flowers that smell like perfume. Zerathel listened with fascination. On my world, everything is gray and silver. We build our cities from metal and stone. Beauty is not practical for warriors. But you must have something beautiful, Marcus said. Music, stories, art. We have battle songs, Zerathel admitted, and poems about famous victories. But they are meant to inspire courage, not whatever your art is for. Our art is for the soul, Marcus explained. To make people feel happiness or sadness or wonder. To help them understand that they are not alone in the universe. Zerathel was quiet for a long moment. I have never felt not alone, she said finally, until now. The next day, Zerathel visited again. This time, she brought a small device that projected images in the air. These are pictures of my world, she said. I thought you might like to see them. Marcus watched as images of tall silver spires and massive stone fortresses appeared above his bed. The buildings were impressive, but they looked cold and empty. It's very organized, Marcus said carefully. Zerathel laughed, a sound like tiny bells ringing. You are being polite. You can say it looks unfriendly. Most aliens think so. Well, maybe a little, Marcus admitted, but I can see the skill that went into building it. Your people are amazing architects. We are good at many things, Zerathel said, but we are not good at this. She gestured between them, talking, sharing, being friends. You're doing fine, Marcus said with a smile. In fact, you're the best alien friend I've ever had. I am the only alien friend you've ever had, Zerathel pointed out. That's true, Marcus laughed, but you're still the best as the days passed. Their visits became a routine. Zerathel would come to the medical bay every afternoon. After the formal talks ended, she told Marcus about Vorthic history and culture, while he shared stories about human life and customs. Marcus learned that Zerathel loved to read ancient texts and study the stars. She had always dreamed of exploring the galaxy, but her father said princesses should focus on war and politics. Zerathel discovered that Marcus had been a teacher before joining the military. He had taught children about different worlds and cultures, hoping to build understanding between species. You gave up teaching to become a soldier? Zerathel asked one day. Marcus nodded sadly. When the war started, I felt I had to protect what I loved. But I always planned to go back to teaching when peace came. What would you teach now? She asked. That different doesn't mean dangerous, Marcus replied. That we can learn from each other instead of fighting. One evening, Marcus was finally well enough to leave the medical bay. Zerathel suggested they meet in the observation deck, a large room with windows that looked out into space. The stars glittered like diamonds against the black void. It's beautiful, Marcus said, standing beside her at the window. Yes, Zerathel agreed. My people believe that each star is a battle waiting to be fought. But you humans, you see them as places to explore, don't you? We see them as possibilities. Marcus said, new worlds to discover, new friends to make. Zerathel turned to look at him. You have changed how I see many things, Marcus Chen. Before I met you, I thought strength was the only virtue. Now I think maybe kindness is stronger. Marcus felt his heart beat faster. Zerathel, Before he could finish, she stepped closer to him. In my culture, we have a saying, the heart knows truth before the mind accepts it. My heart has known something since the moment you saved me. What has it known? Marcus asked softly. that you are important to me, more important than duty or politics or the opinions of others. Marcus reached out and gently took her hand. Her skin was warm and smooth, and he could feel her pulse racing. You're important to me too, more important than I ever thought possible. They stood together in the starlight, two beings from different worlds who had found something precious in each other. For a moment, nothing else mattered, not the war, not their different species, not the rules that said they should be enemies. Then the doors to the observation deck opened, and Captain Vexter stepped inside. Zarathel's personal guard stopped when he saw the princess holding hands with the human. His helmeted face turned toward them, and Marcus could feel the disapproval radiating from him. Your Highness, Vexter said in a cold voice, your father has sent a message. You are to return to the ship immediately. Zarathel squeezed Marcus's hand once, then let go. I will be there shortly, Captain. Now, Princess, Vexter insisted. The Emperor's orders were very specific. As Zarathel walked toward the door, she looked back at Marcus. Thank you for showing me the stars differently, she said. After she left, Marcus stood alone at the window. He had a terrible feeling that something was about to change. The way the guard had looked at them, the urgency in his voice, it felt like the beginning of trouble. On the Vorthic ship, Zarathel was escorted to her father's communication chamber. Emperor Vorthic's image appeared on the screen, his face stern and angry. Daughter, he said in their language, I have received disturbing reports about your behavior. You have been spending time with the human. I was expressing gratitude for saving my life, Zarathel replied carefully. Gratitude is one thing, friendship is another. And what I have heard described sounds like something much worse than friendship. Zarathel's heart sank. Someone had been watching them. Reporting back to her father, I have decided, the Emperor continued, that these peace talks have gone on long enough. You will return home immediately. General Krekstar has agreed to accelerate your engagement ceremony. You will be married within the month. Father, please, Zarathel began. But the Emperor held up his hand. The decision is made. Your ship will depart at dawn. Do not disappoint me further, daughter. The screen went dark, leaving Zarathel alone with her fear and heartbreak. She had found love across the vast distance between worlds, only to have it torn away by duty and tradition. In his quarters, Marcus felt a cold dread settling over him. Tomorrow, he would have to say goodbye to the one person who had changed his understanding of what it meant to be alive. Neither of them knew that. Someone had been watching their every moment together. Someone who would soon use their love as a weapon against them both. The morning sun filtered through the windows of Harmony Prime. As Marcus Chen stood in the docking bay, watching the Vorthic ships prepare to leave, his heart felt heavy as lead. Somewhere on one of those metal vessels, Princess Zarathel was being taken away from him, back to a life of duty and an unwanted marriage. President Martinez approached him with a sad expression. I'm sorry, Marcus. I know you to have become friends. Marcus nodded but said nothing. He couldn't explain that it was more than friendship. He couldn't tell anyone that he had fallen in love with an alien princess, or that she had felt the same way about him. Sir, came a voice behind them. It was Lieutenant Sarah Kim, the communications officer. We're receiving a coded message. It's unusual. Marcus turned with interest. What kind of message? It's coming from the Vorthic fleet, but it's not on any official channel. Someone is using an old emergency frequency that most people have forgotten about. President Martinez frowned. Can you decode it? Already did, sir. It just says, the Eagle watches the stars at midnight, level 7. Section C. Marcus felt his pulse quicken. During their talks, he had told Zarathel about Earth's eagles and how they soared high above the clouds. The message was for him. That night, Marcus made his way to level 7. Section C of the space station. It was a cargo area that was rarely used after midnight. He waited in the shadows, hoping and fearing what he might find. A figure in a dark cloak emerged from behind a stack of supply crates. When the hood fell back, Marcus saw Zarathel's face. She looked tired and frightened, but her purple eyes lit up when she saw him. You came, she whispered. I will always come when you call, Marcus replied. stepping forward to take her hands. I don't have much time, Zerathel said urgently. My ship leaves in 3 hours. My father thinks I'm sleeping in my quarters. But I had to see you one more time. There has to be another way, Marcus said desperately. You don't have to marry this general. You could ask for asylum with the human fleet. Zerathel shook her head sadly. If I run away, my father will think the humans kidnapped me. He will use it as an excuse to start the war again. Thousands will die because of my selfishness. It's not selfish to want to be happy, Marcus insisted. For a princess, it is. Zerathel replied, But Marcus, I need to tell you something important, something dangerous. She looked around nervously, then moved closer to him. General Krekstar, the man I am supposed to marry, is not what he appears to be. I have been listening to conversations between him and my father's advisors. He is planning something terrible. What kind of something? Marcus asked. His soldier instincts awakening. He wants to kill my father after our wedding. Then he will take control of the Vorthic Empire and launch a full attack on human space. But not just a war. He wants to destroy every human world completely. Marcus felt ice in his veins. Are you sure? I heard him talking to his officers. He said that peace makes warriors weak, and that the Vorthic should rule the entire galaxy. He believes humans are a disease that must be removed. We have to tell someone, Marcus said. President Martinez, your father, anyone who will listen. Who would believe me? Zerathel asked. I am just a princess who doesn't want to get married. They will think I am making up stories to avoid my duty. Marcus thought quickly. Then we need proof. Real evidence that people cannot ignore. How can we get proof? I will be watched constantly once I return to my home world. You're smart, Zerathel. Smarter than anyone gives you credit for. You've been learning about human ways of thinking. Use that. Zerathel was quiet for a moment. Then her eyes brightened. There's a way, but it will be very dangerous for both of us. Tell me. Krekstar keeps recordings of his secret meetings on his personal computer. If I could get access to those files, that would be enough proof to convince anyone. Marcus agreed. But how? I will have to pretend to be interested in his plans. Make him think I support his ideas. If I can get close enough to his private quarters. No, Marcus said firmly, it's too dangerous. If he discovers what you're really doing, he will kill me. Zerathel finished. I know. But if I do nothing, he will kill millions of humans, and my father will die too. Marcus pulled her into his arms. I can't let you do this alone. You cannot come with me to my home world, Zerathel said. But maybe there is another way. She reached into her cloak and pulled out a small communication device. This is a quantum transmitter. Very advanced, very secret. It can send messages across any distance instantly. If I can get the proof, I can send it to you. Marcus took the device and studied it. How do I know when you're in trouble? If you don't hear from me within 7 days, assume the worst. Zerathel's voice was steady. But Marcus could see the fear in her eyes. There has to be another way, Marcus said again. This is the only way to save both our peoples, Zerathel replied. You taught me that sometimes love means making sacrifices for others. They held each other in the darkness, knowing it might be the last time. Marcus memorized everything about her, the way she smelled like strange flowers, the soft texture of her skin, the musical quality of her voice. I love you, he said, the words feeling both natural and impossible. I love you too, Zerathel replied, in my language. We say Shartel Nethek. It means my heart flies to you across the void. Shartel Nethek. Marcus repeated carefully. They kissed then. A gentle touch that spoke of promises and hopes and desperate farewells. When they separated, both had tears in their eyes. I have to go, Zerathel whispered. Be careful, Marcus said. Be smart. And remember that you're braver than you think. After she left, Marcus stood alone in the cargo bay, holding the quantum transmitter. He had a terrible feeling that he was about to lose the most important person in his life. On the Vorthic ship, Zerathel slipped back into her quarters without being seen. But as she settled into her bed, she didn't notice the small recording device that had been hidden in her room. Every word of her conversation with Marcus had been captured. In another part of the ship, Captain Vexter played the recording for a hooded figure. The voice that emerged from the shadows was cold and cruel. "So, the princess thinks she can play games with General Krexstar," the figure said. "How amusing. Let her return home and try her little plan. It will be educational for her." "What about the human?" Vexter asked. "He will be dealt with soon enough. But first, let us see how far the princess is willing to go for love." The figure laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "She has no idea what she is walking into. By the time she discovers the truth, it will be far too late." As the Vorthik fleet jumped into hyperspace, carrying Zerethel toward her home world and an uncertain fate, Marcus stood at the observation deck window, watching the stars and holding the transmitter. He had 7 days to wait, 7 days to hope, and 7 days to prepare for whatever message might come. He didn't know that the trap was already closing around both of them, set by an enemy who had been watching their every move. From the beginning, the price of their love was about to become higher than either of them had ever imagined. 5 days had passed since the Vorthik fleet left Harmony Prime. Marcus Chen checked the quantum transmitter every hour, waiting for word from Zerethel. The device remained silent, its small screen showing only darkness. On the 6th day, President Martinez called Marcus to her office. "Commander, we've received disturbing intelligence reports. Our spies in Vorthik space say that Princess Zerethel's wedding has been moved up. It's happening tomorrow." Marcus felt his heart stop. Tomorrow. But she said she had more time. "Something has changed," Martinez said grimly. "We don't know what, but General Krexstar seems to be in a hurry to complete the ceremony." That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He paced his quarters, holding the transmitter and praying for some sign that Zerethel was safe. As dawn approached, the device finally activated with a soft beep. The message was brief and desperate. "Plan discovered. Escaping with proof. Meet me at coordinates 847.221. 445. Come alone. Trust no one else." Marcus stared at the coordinates. They were in the middle of empty space, far from any inhabited system. It would take him 6 hours to reach that location in a fast ship. He grabbed his gear and headed for the docking bay. Lieutenant Kim was on duty at the communications center. "Sir, where are you going?" she asked. "Emergency rescue mission." Marcus replied, "I need to borrow a scout ship. You can't go alone, sir. Regulations say." "This is personal, Lieutenant, and it's important." Kim hesitated, then nodded. "Bay 7 has a fast courier ship ready to go. But, sir, be careful." Marcus launched into space as quickly as possible. The small ship's engines pushed him toward the coordinates at maximum speed. He tried not to think about what might have happened to Zerethel, or how she had managed to escape from her home world. The coordinates led him to a dying star system. The sun was old and red, casting strange shadows across floating rocks and debris. Marcus's sensors detected a small ship hiding behind a large asteroid. As he approached, he saw it was a Vorthik escape pod, badly damaged. Scorch marks covered its hull, and one engine was completely destroyed. Marcus docked his ship carefully and opened the airlock. Zerethel floated inside. Unconscious and hurt, her royal robes were torn, and she had a deep cut on her forehead. But she was alive. Marcus gently carried her to his ship's medical bay and began treating her injuries. She woke up an hour later, her purple eyes opening slowly. "Marcus, how did you find me?" "Your message led me here," he said, holding her hand. "What happened? Are you hurt badly?" "I'm alive," Zerethel said weakly. "But I almost wasn't." Krexstar discovered what I was doing. He was waiting for me in his quarters. "Did you get the proof?" Zerethel smiled despite her pain and pulled out a small data crystal. "Everything is here. Recordings of his plans, lists of ships and weapons, even the date he plans to kill my father." "But Marcus, there's something else." "What?" "He has been working with someone in the human government. Someone has been giving him information about your military defenses." Marcus felt cold. "Who?" "I don't know. The recordings are coded. But there's a spy in your leadership. someone close to the peace negotiations. Before Marcus could respond, his ship's alarms began blaring on the scanner. He saw 6 Vorthic warships dropping out of hyperspace around them. He followed you, Marcus said grimly. I was careful, Zerathel protested. I made sure no one could track me. Maybe the spy told him where to look, Marcus suggested. The lead warship opened communication. General Krextar's face appeared on the screen, his expression cruel and pleased. Princess Zerathel, he said in his deep voice, you have caused me much trouble with your games, and now I am not playing games, Zerathel replied, standing up despite her injuries. I know what you are planning. My father will hear the truth. Krextar laughed. Your father is already dead, my dear. A tragic accident during a military exercise. How sad that he will not see his daughter's wedding. Zerathel staggered as if she had been struck. You killed him? I killed him the moment your ship left our home world, Krextar said coldly. I am now Emperor of the Vorthic, and you, my dear wife, will help me rule the galaxy. I will never marry you, Zerathel said fiercely. You will do as I command. As for your human friend, he will make an excellent example of what happens to those who interfere with Vorthic business. The warships began moving closer, their weapons charging. Marcus quickly calculated their options. His small ship was fast, but not fast enough to outrun 6 military vessels. Can you operate the weapons? He asked Zerathel. I can try, she replied, moving to the gunner's station. We're not going to win this fight, Marcus said. But maybe we can send that data crystal to the human fleet before we die. Zerathel finished. Yes, I understand. Marcus activated the quantum transmitter and prepared to send the data to President Martinez. But as he did, one of the Vorthic ships fired a special weapon that created an energy field around them. Communication jamming, Marcus realized. We can't send the message. Then we have to get closer to human space, Zerathel said. Close enough to break through the jamming. Marcus pushed the engines to maximum power and dove toward the asteroid field. The Vorthic ships followed, firing energy beams that lit up the darkness like deadly fireworks. You're a good pilot, Zerathel observed as Marcus twisted between floating rocks. I had a good teacher, Marcus replied. You showed me how to think like a warrior. And you showed me how to think like a human, Zerathel said, firing back at their pursuers. How to be creative and unpredictable. They managed to destroy one of the enemy ships by leading it into a collision with a large asteroid. But the other 5 kept coming, and Marcus's ship was taking damage. There, Zerathel pointed at the scanner. A nebula cloud. If we can reach it, the gas will hide us from their sensors. Marcus changed course toward the swirling purple clouds. Behind them, General Krextar's voice crackled over the communication system. You cannot run forever. Princess, surrender now, and I will make your death quick. I have a better idea, Zerathel replied into the communicator. Why don't you come and take me yourself, coward? The insult worked. Krextar's ship broke formation and charged ahead of the others, determined to capture the princess personally. Now, Marcus said, and spun his ship around to face the attacking vessel. They flew straight at each other like ancient warriors charging into battle. At the last second, Marcus rolled to the side and Zerathel fired their remaining weapons directly into the enemy ship's engines. Krextar's vessel exploded in a brilliant flash of light, but the victory was short-lived. The other 4 ships surrounded them, and Marcus's engines were failing. I'm sorry, Marcus said, taking Zerathel's hand. I'm sorry I couldn't save you. You did save me, Zerathel replied. You saved my soul from becoming like his. You showed me what love really means, as the enemy ships prepared to fire their final shots. Something unexpected happened. New ships appeared on the scanner, human vessels jumping out of hyperspace. President Martinez's voice came over the communication system. This is the human fleet. Stand down immediately or face the consequences. How did they know where to find us? Marcus wondered. Zerathel smiled weakly. I sent a message before I left my home world. To your Lieutenant Kim, I told her to follow the quantum transmitter signal if I didn't return safely. The human ships opened fire on the Vorthik vessels, driving them back. But Marcus knew this was just the beginning. Without the proof they carried, the war would start again, and millions would die. "We have to get this data to the fleet," he said, holding up the crystal. "We will," Zerathel promised, together. As rescue ships approached to take them to safety, Marcus and Zerathel held each other in the darkness between the stars. They had survived the crucible of battle, but the greatest challenge still lay ahead. They had to convince the empires to trust each other, and they had to expose the spy who had nearly destroyed everything they fought to protect. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, and love was their only weapon against the darkness. The emergency council meeting on Harmony Prime was filled with tension. Leaders from both the Human Federation and the remaining Vorthik loyal forces had gathered to hear the evidence that Marcus and Zerathel had risked their lives to obtain. President Martinez stood at the center of the Great Hall, holding the data crystal that contained proof of General Krekstar's treachery. "The recordings are clear," she announced. "General Krekstar murdered Emperor Vorthik and planned to destroy all human worlds." Admiral Vexron, the highest-ranking Vorthik officer still loyal to the royal family, nodded grimly. "These recordings prove what many of us suspected. Krekstar has dishonored our entire race with his actions." Marcus sat beside Zerathel, watching as the political leaders argued about military strategy. The princess was now the rightful ruler of the Vorthik Empire, but half of her forces still followed the false emperor. The situation was complicated and dangerous. "There's something else," Zerathel said, standing up. "The recordings show that Krekstar had help from someone in the human government. Someone gave him classified information about your defenses." A murmur of shock ran through the human delegation. President Martinez frowned. "Do you know who?" "The voice is disguised in the recordings," Zerathel replied. "But I have an idea how to find out." She looked at Marcus, who nodded. They had discussed this plan during their recovery. It was risky, but it might be the only way to expose the traitor. "We need to set a trap," Marcus explained. "Give false information to different people and see which information reaches Krekstar." "That could work," Admiral Peterson agreed. "But we need to be careful. If the spy realizes what we're doing, they will warn Krekstar," Zerathel finished, "and he will attack before we're ready." The council decided to try the plan. Over the next 3 days, they spread different fake battle plans to various members of the human leadership. Each plan had a different weakness that Krekstar could exploit. On the 4th day, Krekstar's fleet attacked exactly as one of the false plans had predicted. The spy had been identified. "Dr. Wilson," President Martinez said sadly, looking at the elderly scientist. "How could you betray your own species?" Dr. Wilson, the man who had tried to make jokes during the peace talks, looked ashamed. "They'd promised me advanced technology. I thought it would help humanity advance faster. Instead, you nearly caused our destruction," Admiral Peterson said angrily. "I'm sorry," Dr. Wilson whispered. "I never meant for anyone to die." With the spy exposed, the human fleet was able to prepare properly for battle. But Krekstar's forces were still powerful, and many Vorthik warriors followed him out of fear rather than loyalty. "We need to show them the truth," Zerathel said. "My people respect strength, but they also value honor. If they see that Krekstar is without honor, they will abandon him." Marcus had an idea. "What if we broadcast the recordings to all the Vorthik ships? Let every warrior hear what their leader really thinks of them." "That might work," Admiral Vexron agreed. "But we need to get close enough to their fleet to penetrate their communication shields." "I'll do it," Marcus volunteered. "I can get close in a small ship." "No," Zerathel said firmly. "We'll do it together. It's time I faced my people and told them the truth about everything." The final battle began at the edge of the Vorthik home system. Krekstar's Dark Fleet faced the combined forces of humans and loyal Vorthik. The false emperor's ship was massive and heavily armed, but Marcus and Zerathel flew their small vessel between the larger ships, dodging weapons fire and enemy fighters. There, Zerathel pointed at a gap in the enemy formation. "If we can reach that position, we can broadcast to all their ships at once." Marcus pushed their ship to its limits, weaving through the chaos of battle. Energy beams and missile explosions lit up the darkness around them. Several enemy fighters chased them, but Marcus's piloting skills and Zarathel's defensive fire kept them safe. Now, Zarathel said, activating the communication system. Her voice echoed across every Vorthic ship in the fleet. Warriors of the Empire, I am Princess Zarathel, your rightful ruler. You have been lied to by a murderer and a coward. The recordings played, revealing Krextar's true voice as he planned to kill Emperor Vorthic and destroy human worlds. But more importantly, they heard him speak about his own soldiers with contempt, calling them useful fools and expendable tools. The effect was immediate. Many Vorthic ships stopped fighting and turned their weapons on Krextar's vessel. The false emperor's own officers began to rebel against him. You think you have won? Krextar's voice roared over the communication system. I still have enough ships to destroy you all. His remaining vessels formed a desperate last attack, targeting the human command ship where President Martinez was stationed. But Marcus and Zarathel flew their small ship directly into the path of the attack. What are you doing? Zarathel asked. Protecting what matters, Marcus replied, just as he had done during their first meeting. The energy blast hit their ship, causing massive damage. The engines failed, and life support began to shut down. But their sacrifice had given the Allied fleet time to destroy Krextar's ship once and for all, as their vessel drifted powerless in space. Marcus and Zarathel held each other close. I'm sorry, Marcus whispered. I wanted to give you so much more time. You gave me everything, Zarathel replied. You showed me what love really means. Round them. The battle was ending. The remaining enemy ships were surrendering, and rescue vessels were racing toward their position. But Marcus was badly hurt, and the ship's medical systems were failing. Stay with me, Zarathel pleaded, as Marcus's eyes began to close. I'll try, he promised, but his voice was getting weaker. Then something unexpected happened. The ancient alien ruins that Zarathel had studied in her youth contained stories of a healing ritual. Without fully understanding why, she began to sing an old Vorthic song while crying tears of pure love onto Marcus's wounds. The combination of her alien tears and the deep emotional bond between them triggered something that scientists would later study for years. Marcus's injuries began to heal, and his breathing grew stronger. How? He asked weakly. Love. Zarathel replied simply. Love is the strongest force in the universe. 6 months later, Marcus and Zarathel stood together on the observation deck of a new space station called Unity Point. It was built jointly by humans and Vorthic, a symbol of their new alliance. Are you ready? President Martinez asked, approaching them with a smile. We're ready, Zarathel replied, wearing a beautiful dress that combined human and Vorthic styles. The wedding ceremony was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Emperor Zarathel, she had chosen to keep her father's title, and Ambassador Marcus Chen exchanged vows in both languages, promising to love each other and work for peace between their peoples. Representatives from dozens of alien species attended the ceremony, inspired by the story of two beings who had found love across the vast distances of space. Do you think we'll really have peace? Marcus asked as they watched the stars together after the ceremony. We'll have something better than peace, Zarathel replied. We'll have understanding, and from understanding comes friendship, and from friendship comes love. As they held each other in the starlight, ships from many worlds came and went from Unity Point. Human merchants traded with Vorthic artisans. Vorthic students attended human universities. Children of both species played together in the station's parks. The love between a human commander and an alien princess had become the foundation for a new era of cooperation across the galaxy. They had proven that differences in appearance or culture were less important than the connections that could form between hearts. Marcus and Zarathel spent their lives traveling between worlds, teaching others that love was indeed the strongest force in the universe. Their story became a legend that inspired countless other beings to look beyond their differences and find the common bonds that united all life. And in the quiet moments between their diplomatic missions, They would stand together looking at the stars, remembering how their love had been written across the infinite darkness of space, proving that even the greatest distances could be bridged by two hearts that refused to give up on each other. The end.